pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And next on the agenda, item 4, we have a very special general tonight. We have a recognition of the Saco Middle School 7th graders, winners of the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest. I am proud to announce that Saco Middle School has been named the Maine State winner of the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest. SMS was the only middle school, and would like to note out against high school competitors, of the 6 finalists to win the $12,000 prize package, a video kit to assist in the national competition, and a designated Samsung employee mentor, and Saco Middle School is now moving on to the national championship. The top 10 national finalists will be chosen by March 26, with community choice voting for the top 3 to follow. Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest is a national competition for grades 6 through 12 to use STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, to address issues in the community and bring about positive social change. With the guidance of their teacher, Lindsay Gerard, the 7th graders designed and created 100% biodegradable, sustainable, and refillable markers. The students use locally sourced materials and an efficient production process to reduce the production's carbon footprint. At this time, I would like to recognize the students involved, not only for their hard work, creativity, and dedication, but also for their efforts to make a difference. We have Aislinn Cassidy, Aaron Garland, Juniper L'Italian, Tucker Vincent, Spencer Fagan, Natalie Chaplin, Abigail Cashin, Amara Doe, Charlotte Ramsey, Eleanor Studman, and their teacher, Lindsay Gerard. Saco Middle School. Saco Middle School and the entire Saco community are proud of you and will be cheering you on as you represent our state in the national competition. Congratulations. I would like to invite you guys up with the council. We're going to take a quick photo.
You're gonna have to get in a little bit, yeah. Squeeze in a little bit. All right, I think I got everybody just about, all right? Jeez. One more. Perfect.
Okay, and next on the agenda tonight, item number 5, we do have committee correspondence. Is there any committee correspondence to the council? Yes. Councillor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. The Energy Committee, in conjunction with Saco's Planning Department, will be hosting an information session on the creation of the city's first Climate Adaptation and Action Plan on Wednesday, March 6th, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Here in the council chambers. The event will provide details about the draft plan, which will lay out a roadmap for the next 10 years of Saco's climate future. We encourage public participation in this interactive event. You can participate in person at City Hall or attend online via live stream broadcast by the Communications Department on the city's Facebook page, facebook.com/Saco Maine, or YouTube channel, youtube.com/City of Saco TV. And to RSVP a seat, please visit the facebook.com/Saco Maine/events. And to learn more about Saco's climate planning process, visit sacomaine.org/climate. A great opportunity for citizens to get involved in a very important endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Hewitt.
The Library Committee is happy to announce they have selected a new executive director. Her name is Sophie Smith. She'll be beginning on March 18th.
Anyone else? Okay, not seeing any. Now move on to item number 6, and that is public comment. We did not have anybody signed up on the sheet, but if there is any member of the public wishing to speak to council, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Inga Brown, and I live at 161 Simpson Road. I know there are 2 public hearings later this evening on specific items, and I plan to talk, I think, during those public hearings. But I did want to make some general comments related to meeting minutes. And I know some of you have received a copy of the letter that I sent to the planning board. The planner, Mr. Bahenko, had gotten a copy of it, and I will make sure that the full council receives a copy of my letter. The issue is about planning board meeting minutes, and that they, in my view, do not reflect citizen participation in the public hearings with a topic next to citizens' names when they speak during a public hearing. So if you look at planning board public hearing minutes, or if you even look at your own council minutes when there has been a public hearing, I did go back and take a look at some of those. As you well know, when there's a public hearing, the citizen's name appears, their address appears, but nothing else appears. And I think if you really look at meeting minutes as a summary of the meeting, that people, whether it's the council, whether it's the citizens, whether it's someone who's trying to find out more about what happened at the meeting, those meeting minutes are critical, and I do believe that citizen voices should be represented in those minutes with 1 or 2 simple topics next to their name. This used to occur. I did some research, and September 3rd, September 3rd, 2019, and before, so September 3rd, 2019 and earlier, if you look at planning board minutes, you will see a topic. Actually, you'll see more than a topic, to be honest with you. You will see citizen's name, address, and quite a lengthy summary of what they said during the public hearing. To be honest with you, if you look at those minutes, there's way too much information in those minutes, and I think everyone could agree that a concise and shorter version of just a couple things that somebody said, and perhaps some of those minutes also say spoke in favor of or spoke against. I think that's really critical. Tonight you're looking at the zoning amendment for the Bedard properties. I don't know if you wanted to look at the meeting minutes from February 6th, but those were approved last week by the planning board on the 20th. Those are not posted. So the other thing is that here you are tonight with a public hearing, and if you see in your packet for this evening related to the Bedard item and also Kafua management, your packet this evening says many residents spoke at the public hearing. It doesn't say how many. There were 20 speakers who spoke during the Bedard property public hearing. 20 of those people spoke against that zoning amendment, and that's not really showing up in the minutes. So I'll wrap it up. My time is up. The point is, I think if we're looking at balance in the minutes, fairness, inclusivity, and you want a record that really represents the city, the applicant, and your stakeholders here, the citizens of Saco, I really would like to see those meeting minutes at the planning board include a topic or two for those citizens. And since I'm talking to you, the council, I'd like to raise that as well for your council meeting minutes when there are public hearings, that more than just the citizen's name and address appear. One or two topics that they said. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak? Okay, not seeing anyone being recognized. Moved on to item number 7, and that is the approval of the minutes for January 22nd, 2024, January 29th, 2024, and February 5th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hewitt. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Ratcher?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item 8, consent items. There is one item on the agenda tonight, and that is the council schedule, adding meeting April 10th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved.
Motion by Counselor Berman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion on the consent items? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Ratcher?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, now moving on to action items. Item number 9. Item A is one reading of the Roussel abatement. And that is signed to Counselor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. Helene Roussel and William Longmore own the property at 180 Bradley Street. It is identified as tax map 52-18. Prior to 2012, 180 Bradley Street was a 1,248 square foot single-story home. In 2012, William Longmore obtained a permit to add a second story to the home along with other updates. During inspections for April 1st, 2013, a member of the assessing department visited the property and noted that the second story had been added. They were not able to inspect the inside of the property and erroneously marked the second story as finished space rather than unfinished. This increased the finished square footage of the home from 1,248 square feet to 2,496. The second story was never finished and remains unfinished today. This incorrect assessment was carried forward until the taxpayer reached out to the assessing department in September of 2023. The department carried out an inspection on October 6, 2023, and corrected the error. An abatement has been issued for this tax year. The next step is to abate the owner for the previous 3 years. The City Council has the authority to do this according to State Statute Title 36, Chapter 105, Subchapter 8, Section 841, Abatement Process. The municipal officers, either upon written application filed after 1 year but within 3 years from commitment stating the grounds for an abatement, or on their own initiative within that time period, may make such reasonable abatement as they consider proper to correct any illegality, error, or irregularity in assessment. The exhibit attached to the packet provides the calculation of amounts for the abatement request. Be it ordered that the City Council grant the abatement to Helene Roussel and William Longmore for tax years 2020 through 2022 in the amount of $1,518. I move to approve the order.
Motion has been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
And Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item B, which is a first reading, Budget Amendment Number 4, Residential Properties, Measure and List, and that is assigned to Counselor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. The City of Saco put out a request for proposal, or an RFP, for the residential measure, list, and photographing in October 2023 with a due date of November 1st, 2023. The city received a proposal from Vision Government Solutions for $386,000. The quote is good until April 29th, 2024. Additionally, the city has hired KRT Appraisal to perform a cyclical audit of all businesses in the spring of 2024. The city budgeted $250,000 from unassigned fund balance for fiscal year 2024 to cover the cost of the measure and list services. So the budget amendment recommendation is for vision, measure, and list of $386,000, the personal property audit of $40,000, minus the amount budgeted for fiscal year 2024 of $250,000, giving us a total budget amendment recommendation of $176,000. Be it ordered that council approve the first reading of Budget Amendment Number 4 and schedule the second and final reading for March 4th, 2024. I move to approve the order.
Motion has been made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Any discussion? Counselor Johnston?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it seems straightforward. My only question, am I correct to assume or interpret the way I do that this is really just a boots on the ground site inspection to see what's actually there? Any future reval, say you have a house that, you know, has put a major addition on, that would be done in-house at a later date?
So let me just back up. First of all, you are correct about the measure and list. This measure and list will be done for April 1st of 2025. That's when they're going to do it, which will affect fiscal year 26. It is estimated that there won't be substantial changes unless people have not, you know, taken out permits or whatever, but that the actual adjustments will be for fiscal year 26, not for what we're doing fiscal 25, all right? So this is just a part of the revaluation to make sure, as you indicated, that things are as they are supposed to be. I can ask Kate Kern to come up and maybe expound on that, or I don't know, Kate, are you satisfied with my response? All right. That's it.
And then the only other question, I mean, it's related but unrelated, just with our Vision software, since it's the same company that has bid, is it possible, I've seen with the city of Biddeford, for example, when I pull up a property card in Biddeford or on their Vision software, it will list all the site inspections from code and revals. And I think that's really...
I'll ask Kate Kern to come up, the assessor, to maybe speak to that and see what is necessary to do that for us.
I would just say, I think it's very helpful for
Sure.
anybody that's buying a property or even really the city.
Yep.
It's an in-house way of documenting when site inspections have occurred.
Hi. Yeah, that's a good question. And you can have whatever you want listed on the website for Vision. And once we finish the measure and list and photograph, we'll address that on the website. As far as site visits for building permits, that would be a little bit harder to do.
And again, I don't know, I don't understand software, but I know that Biddeford's does list going all the way back to the 90s, whenever a code enforcement officer was at a property.
Yeah.
We can take a look at it.
Sure, can look at it, and I'll take a look at their site and see what they've done, so.
All right, thank you.
Counselor Archer.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Counselor Johnston. If we do find out, like, they've had to go find the data, find the records and input them in, I'd almost look at two different options. Find out what it takes to bring historical data in, and then find out what it would cost just to move forward.
Sure.
Because at every given time, there's a timestamp of when services change. So if we find it to be most efficient to just use a start date and move forward for that practice, that could be a time saver and a budget saver, but still meet the needs of the future.
Yep, I'll make note of that.
Thank you, Kate.
That it? Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well said. Thank you, Kate. Okay, not seeing any. Roll call vote. Counselor Archer.
Aye.
Counselor Parks.
Yes.
Counselor Gunn.
Yes.
Counselor Berman.
Yes.
Counselor Hatch.
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt.
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item C, and that's a public hearing, petition for zoning map amendment filed by Bedard Properties LLC to change the zoning of a portion of map 87, lot 17, from rural conservation, RC, to West Residential, WR zoning district. And that is Counselor Archer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Bedard Properties LLC, represented by DM Roma Consulting Engineers, has filed a petition for a zoning map amendment to change the zoning of a portion of map 87, lot 17, from rural conservation to the West Residential District. I move to open the public hearing.
Motion has been made by Counselor Archer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnston. Roll call vote to open the public hearing. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Public hearing is open. If there are any members wishing to speak, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
Acting in favor of the applicant, am I allowed to speak?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Jason Haskell with DM Roma Consulting Engineers here on behalf of Mr. Bedard and Bedard Properties LLC. The property is located on New County Road, obviously Route 5. To the south is Deep Brook Golf Course. To the east is Hillview Heights. Saco owned woodlands associated with the middle school property to the north, and then the Fenderson Farm to the west. We're here tonight to discuss the rezone of the property from its current rural conservation to West Residential, when in fact it is just changing the zone back to what it was back in January of 2021, when the council adopted the revisions to the zoning ordinance, including the official zoning map. All of the studies and the third-party input resulted in this property being zoned as West Residential, and then was finalized once the zoning was finalized. The only reason this lot is not part of the same zone as all the abutting properties around it, including even further down Route 5, is because in April 2021, Mr. Fenderson petitioned for the farm property to be rezoned to rural conservation due to the use of the property and also the potential for a future solar farm, which actually has been moving forward, as I understand. And that was later approved by the council. Because the Bedard lot was part of the overall Fenderson property at the time, it was rezoned to RC. Now that Bedard owns the property and would like to develop the property as a subdivision, we're now requesting the rezoning back to the original West Residential. One of the primary reasons for the rezone is the access to public utilities. The introduction of the public utilities across I-95 as part of the development of the precious hidden estates off Sancho Drive, changed this area. The project, which is approximately 750 feet from the southeastern corner of the subject parcel, strengthens the argument for the zone to be changed back to the higher residential density of the West Residential, when you don't have to worry about siting a septic field and a well on the same property. The lot sizes can be much smaller. In addition, is intended in the comprehensive plan to encourage development within areas that are within the vicinity of existing utilities. It is also a requirement of the subdivision portion of the ordinance that any project within 1,500 feet of public sewer is required to make the extension. This is indicating that we must install public infrastructure since we're only about 750 feet from the hidden precious estates, or the precious hidden estates. To make this project possible, we almost need the additional lots to make it work if we're required to extend the utilities the several thousand feet, actually, because of the size of the lot. So at the time of the permitting of the hidden estates, a sewer and water expansion study was actually being produced at that time. As part of their study, they examined the property west of I-95 in several different locations throughout the city, but this included this area on Route 5. The plan actually took into account over 700 potential houses out this way. So we looked further into it to see what that meant, and actually what ended up happening was it was such a real idea that when the Precious Hidden Estates added their sewer main underneath I-95, the city actually had a 6-inch main actually installed right next to it. That way that when further development is needed on Route 5, there was already a service ready to go.
Okay, I am, not to interrupt, I'm just
Oh,
going to
I'm
ask
sorry.
if you could wrap it up.
Yep.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So I guess really what we are looking to do is also, not only, I guess one of the biggest things that we want to do is make the public know that we're not intended to make any connection physically between Route 5 and Hillview Heights. There's no benefit to the developer to add a road over Deep Brook, which is running right down the middle of the site. It's going to be very expensive, and actually there would be no lots along that road that he would actually benefit from, because it's all resource protection. Also, the design as we have it right now, obviously that can change, but we're looking at putting all the lots on one side, leaving the rest the east side of Deep Brook, and it's kind of like a conservation open space area. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, is to preserve Deep Brook as much as we can, not crossing it with any type of a crossing, and all the utilities are run down Route 5. Unfortunately, if that doesn't work out in our favor, then we'll have to find ways to find the property to be developed. But I guess that's all I got right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak?
My name is Norma Wright. I live at 106 New County Road in Saco. I've lived in that house for all my life, 66 years, and it's 3 generations of family that have owned that property. I don't like development coming in. I feel like the vultures are moving in. And I think as few houses as can be allowed, it should stay as rural conservation. We need to keep the country. You're swallowing everything up. I can tell you right now, you'll never get my property. And I won't have to look at neighbors. I'll put up a fence. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
As was
said a couple, 3 weeks ago at.
Yeah, if you could state your name and
Oh, I'm
address for the
sorry.
record. Thank you.
Yep,
That's okay.
Elaine Scott. I live at 46 Hillview Avenue in the Hillview Heights community. There has been a lot of interest by the folks in Hillview Heights in the proposing development of this area in particular. Initially, there was, I guess there still is concern that it could involve a right-of-way from Hillview Heights into the development, and that would be problematic because of Deep Brook, because of the wetlands, because of flooding that already is known to occur there. Some initial plans showed houses being built there on the Hillview side. That's what's raised, I think, I'm speaking for myself, but I think from other comments that were made at the prior meeting, that it's that area that is of the most concern to the residents, Hillview Heights, because we recognize its significance in terms of wildlife, in terms of the brook, in terms of it's actually a forested area that connects the woods on the Saco Middle School side that goes all the way around Hillview Heights. And if there was a road that was put through there from Hillview Heights, even if it's just to connect houses on that side of the brook, which I understand the gentleman now said they don't plan on doing, it destroys a path. It's much more destructive to the environment than might appear if you just look at the map. But if you walk through that area, it's like, no, 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 no. All these trees shouldn't be cut down, and this brook and this wetland should not be disturbed. So that was a big issue in terms of what this all meant for Hillview and how and at what level the council or other bodies might be able to make sure that that area is protected. And I think the other concern with rural conservation versus the residential is just the number of houses that would be built with the others, a lot more impact. It's a lot more people. I assume that's a lot more trees that have to be cut down and disturbed if you're talking about a higher density population, even on the Route 5 side. So those are issues I hope you would be considering.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good evening. My name is Ruth Galucci. I live in 35 Hillview. I've been there 23 years with 2 kids growing up and all. I agree with Eileen. Hillview Heights been like a target area that we've been noticed for the past few years. The last time I remember that we had to be here to fight over the electricity pipeline to go along the turnpike, which is what it was down. I mean, it was footed down because of what Eileen was saying. There's actually an area in the back, the brook, that's why it's Deep Brook, all the way to Hillview. It's a wetland that is very, as she said, is very reserved. And now we have a turnpike going through that area, half of it. Most of the trees are gone in the front of it, and affecting the sound and all that stuff that we also fought it, but it wasn't. The main thing of that is the wetland that was a reserve area that we care about and all that too. The neighborhood has been, I've been there 23 years. There's a lot of people there longer than me, as Norma says. We actually, again, I do not want to see the area to be ruined, as she's saying. She's been there 60-some years for a road or whatever to cross from Deep Brook to North Street to make easy access to the turnpike. It's going to be causing a lot of traffic for our kids, our grandkids, whatever we're looking at in the future. I just want to give you my opinion. I don't think that's a great idea from my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
My name's Ed Pendleton. I live at 28 Wendy Way, which is in Hillview Heights. My family has been in that residence since 1979. The reason I say that is because I've seen a lot of changes throughout basically the whole development. There's 2 phases of Hillview Heights. The first phase is where I live, and where we have lived since 1979. Second phase was created afterwards. Bud Waycott was the original contractor who built a lot of the houses. And the names of the streets themselves are actually named after his kids, so a lot of you probably already know that. My understanding is that it's not going to embed onto the Hillview Heights side of Deep Brook. It's going to be Route 5 side. I see a lot of construction going up around in Saco. Saco's changed a lot, we all know that. Flag Pond Road, a lot of construction going on there. Jenkins Road, a lot of construction going on there. To me, those are bigger concerns impeding on the Hillview Heights area as far as traffic goes. But Route 5, personally, I would love to see a way into Route 5 from 112, just because of the traffic that is on 112. I used to be able to ride my bike down to the transfer station and back, and I'd barely see a car. Now you can't even drive on that, ride a bike on that road. It's just that dangerous. So I understand people's concerns with development, but there's development going on all over Saco. We see it everywhere. I'm familiar with Kevin's, Bedard's work. He does excellent homes. I think it would be a good asset, and I don't think it would affect the Hillview Heights area, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. State your name and address for the record.
Yep, my name's Davis Jakes. I'm living at 20 Sheila Circle in Saco currently, and actually grew up in the city of Saco, so can appreciate a lot of the new development going on around the 112 and Route 5 area, but just wanted to strongly disagree with the proposal for a throughway from Route 5 to 112. I think the city of Saco should consider pausing on a lot of new development in the area until we can see how the traffic pattern plays out at the lights and with the new Jenkins intersection. And I also think that any plans to develop on either side of Deep Brook will impact the Deep Brook River itself, because that area is wetland. I've walked back there, the water table is really high, so any of the new development construction that they do in that area is inherently going to seep into the river, which runs throughout most of the rural community in Saco. So I'd also like, at a minimum, more surveying or evaluation to be done on the land itself to minimize any impact on the Deep Brook River. So yeah, would just urge the city to uphold the planning board's decision not to build the throughway, and also do careful consideration around zoning to minimize the impact to Deep Brook, whether that's making it residential on the Route 5 side and upholding rural conservation on the other side of Deep Brook, or whatever would minimize environmental impact in that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Kevin Bedard with Bedard Properties. I live at 6 Quarry Lane, Saco, Maine. I just want to make it very clear with everybody that we have no intentions on ever crossing the brook. Coming through Hillview Heights, I think the whole development and the planning and everything else that's going on in the meetings is being pushed towards what everybody's trying to save through Hillview Heights, which I have no intentions on doing. We plan on giving that land up as open space. We don't plan on ever crossing the brook. And I know from being in the business for 20 some odd years that we take pride in the city. We definitely contribute to this city quite a bit. We volunteer. We help the homeless. We help people in need. And I can hand on a Bible. It would be a great project if it was pushed through. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be recognized?
Hi, good evening. Inga Brown, 161 Simpson Road. This project is in the Rural Conservation Zone. Ward 1 is in the Rural Conservation Zone, and therefore I attended the planning board meeting and spoke at that public hearing as well on February 6th. There were 20 Saco citizens who spoke that evening, all against this zoning amendment. Their names are in the February 6th meeting minutes from the planning board. I strongly support the planning board's recommendation 3-2 to keep this property zoned in the rural conservation zone. I understand that zoning amendments and requests can occur. We just have a brand-new comprehensive plan. We just went through a very extensive and thorough ZORS process, and the flip-flopping from one property to the next, back and forth from rural conservation to West residential. Mr. Bedard, and I understand that you're a very positive community member, and I mean no disrespect, but Mr. Bedard knew that this property was zoned rural conservation when it was purchased. We have a domino effect about to occur. If you are going to extend water into this area, this council has deeply invested in our comprehensive plan. The rural conservation zone should be very cautiously developed where there is no public sewer and there is no public water. We need to be very careful about opening this up to subdivisions. I think it's also very important to say that the people have spoken, and the 20 residents who have spent their time coming to these public hearings and their concerns, even if there is no intention to make a connector from 112 to Route 5, I still believe that this project is not the right time, it is not the right place, and if we do this, then we are really looking at our comprehensive plan and thumbing our nose at it. It is not the right property to do this, and I strongly would support your careful consideration of keeping this property zoned rural conservation. There is a line. Deep Brook was always used as the natural contour line of where rural conservation West residential stops, and I think that your very careful attention. I spoke at the public hearing about the need to protect the open space, the natural resources, the carbon, the green space. And this is sort of a textbook case of a zoning amendment that I believe should not be supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Christopher Ayers. I've lived at 22 Sheila Circle for the last 17 years. The owner's representative said something that was important. He said, subject to change. I think that we all are concerned that if a road exists between, Route 5 and 112 with a couple hundred feet between it, that eventually it will be developed and it will be created. And I think that all of Hillview Heights residents would feel much more comfortable about this project if there was some sort of assurance, whether it be from the owner or the city, that that part of 112, that part of Hillview Heights is not developed. As long as that happens, I mean, I am conflicted in the fact that development is a natural part of our evolution, but where is the line? Where are we going to stop it? I don't know how much of this city is still rural conservation, but I can't imagine there's a lot of it. And, whether it stops there or it stops, where's it going to stop? So, I think that should be a consideration from the city council. And, the Hillview Heights side of this project, if it were to be eliminated somehow through the owner or the city, I think that people feel a little bit more comfortable about the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, doesn't look like anyone else is wishing to be recognized. Councilor Archer?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me just get back to I had the zoning map up. I move to close the public hearing and schedule the second and final reading for March 4th, 2024.
Motion has been made to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Berman. Councilor Hatch. Thank you. Okay, roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion to close the public hearing passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item D, and that is a public hearing, petition for zoning map amendment filed by Cafu Management Company, LLC, to change the zoning of map 55, lots 1, 1-1, 3, and 6, from business industrial to highway business. And that is assigned to Councilor Hatch.
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. Kafua Management Company, LLC, represented by Archipelago Law, has filed a petition for zoning map amendment to change the zoning of map 55, lots 1, 1-1, 3, 5, and 6, from the business industrial BI to the highway business HB zoning districts. I move to open the public hearing.
Okay, motion has been made by Councilor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Berman. Roll call vote. Councilor Archer?
Aye.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion to open the public hearing passes 7-0. Hearing is now open. Any members wishing to speak?
Yes, thank you, councilors. Excuse me. Sandra Gay from Archipelago, and I am hopefully going to get this little, very short PowerPoint up running here. And if not, I will just speak it. Not sure what I'm doing wrong here. Oh, yeah, how do I? You had to go. Did you get the File Explorer yet? Yes, so he, the guy that was helping with this, kind of got it going before, but.
And just want to make sure this isn't a presentation, correct? Is it more of a?
It's just
an update and rundown of the,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, well, I don't want to take up your time with this, so. Yeah, you could just pull up the plan, that would be great. So I just wanted to quickly, I know that the planning board came back with a mixed report for the council, so and there were some comments made in the report and made by the planning board, and I just kind of wanted to go over that so that the council has that information for it when it makes its determination. And a lot of it had to do with the comprehensive plan, and that was what actually I was hoping to put up here. The many sections of the comprehensive plan that supports this amendment going to HB. And a big part of that has to do with the city's move towards smart growth and the role of the highway business in being that kind of mixed-use, walkable development, smart growth. 5-minute walk is kind of the goal. People who live in residential areas can get to coffee shops and things like that within a 5-minute walk. So the BI does not allow those kinds of uses. The HB does allow those kinds of uses. One of the comments that came up was that the changing over to the HB from a BI was going to eliminate industrial uses and industrial land from the city. It isn't industrial. It's not zoned industrial. It's actually, the BI is a business industrial zone. Most of the uses that are allowed in the BI are also allowed in the HB. One of the comments that came up at the planning board is, well, we went on hotels here or something like that. Hotels are allowed in both the BI and the HB. Most of those uses are allowed in both. The use that would be allowed in the HB that's not allowed in the BI is one thing is the Dunkin' Donuts use, but also residential use. And that's really important here because and I can't stay on the microphone and reach it, but thank you, medium density, this is all, so this is what we're talking about here. This is all residential development already here. It already goes down that side of Industrial Park Road. There's already a sidewalk that goes down that side of Industrial Park Road all the way to the visiting nurses location, although there's really nothing to walk to there other than the visiting nurses, perhaps. But it's already set up to operate like the highway business. It's already set up to have those kinds of walkable retail or other uses that people that live in a residential area want. And it's part of the smart growth that the city is moving toward, rather than the total separation of industrial here, residential here. The whole idea of it is to make things walkable, and not just along Portland Road and Route 1, where people who live here have to get in their car and drive down to get to a mixed-use location. That kind of defeats the purpose. The whole purpose of it is to get people out of their cars, get people walking and bicycling. If kids are playing baseball there, letting them, bike down and get a hot chocolate and a donut or whatever. But that's the purpose of smart growth. That's where your comprehensive plan is. There's a lot in it about smart growth and about the importance of walkable neighborhoods. So that was what I was hoping to really be able to share with you today. One of the other comments came that we don't want to give up light industry uses. The category light industry is in the BI and not the HB. However, all of the uses, am I over? Yep, a little bit. I'm sorry, I'll stop.
That's okay.
The uses that are in the definition for light industry, bakeries, breweries, distilleries, research and development, those are all allowed in the HB. So although the category in light industrial may not be, the uses that are in that category are allowed in the HB. So we're not giving up any industrial uses. It's not an industrial park up here. It's really connected to this residential neighborhood. And sorry for going over.
That's okay. I know, people are on a roll sometimes. That's why we give a little bit of leeway.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, I'm Inga Brown, 161 Simpson Road. Been to a lot of planning board meetings the last month, so I'm sorry. Have been and participated in these public hearings and very concerned about this particular zoning amendment request. So first of all, as you know, we have a new exit about to unfold. And I believe the traffic study done by the DOT is projecting 30% less traffic along Industrial Park Road. That is a conjecture. We don't know that for sure. I think it's extremely premature at this time to change the zoning for these 5 properties. We have, again, I'm going to tout our comprehensive plan. It's a new plan. We went through the ZORS process, And I can tell you, as someone who uses Industrial Park Road every single day, when I come off the turnpike, I am, and I'm not exaggerating, happy when I get on Industrial Park Road that I do not see the type of drive-through fast food businesses there, because I can go to Route 1 on our main street to have all of the fast food drive-through amenities that I would like. I think this is the wrong place. So we have, as you know, Industrial Park Road is a collector, it is a funnel. The traffic there is of tremendous concern. If you've been there in rush hour or the morning, the traffic is all backed up. And I don't think it's the time now to change the zoning until at least we have the data about how the new exit has affected this area. I'm going to tout Merrimont Field. Merrimont, as you know, is a nonprofit. The concession stand is one of their main fundraisers. So when you open up the 5 properties here to this potential highway business use, you are directly affecting Merrimont. The planning board, in their tied recommendation 3-3, also spoke in favor of vision, and that we need to have a long-term vision for this area, not a short-term vision. So you can look at Southern Maine Healthcare, you can look at the visiting nurses organization there. That doesn't mean they're going to be there for long. Things could change very quickly. That is not a static area, and before you know it, if you rezone these properties, and Merrimont is sitting on a very prime piece of real estate, you're looking at tremendous potential change to this funnel area that is a artery that all of us rely on here in Saco. So as far as walkability and residential aspects, I've spoken at this podium many times about smart growth, careful growth, but I don't see Industrial Park Road there now, currently, as being the place where people want to walk. And the residents that are in that area, is that really, they want the lights, they want the noise, they want the late hours of a Dunkin' Donuts. That is an effect there to those residents. So in closing, this is not the right time in my view, and I would urge you to follow the planning board's recommendation and careful vision statement about what we really want Industrial Park Road to look like. And until that exit has been in effect for a good amount of time, then we have real data on the effects of the traffic, I think that it would be a too quick of a decision to make that zoning change now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Rebecca Brown with Greenman Peterson. We're the traffic consultants representing Kafua on this application. I'm also a former resident of the city of Saco and lived right on Garfield Street, right around the corner from this for years. So a few things that I do want to note. I know there's obviously a large concern about traffic and how much traffic is going to be generated by the change in the zoning from BI to HB. And one thing that, as Sandra already mentioned, a lot of the uses that are allowed in the BI zone are also allowed in the HB zone. But a lot of the uses that are allowed right now in the BI zone are actually pretty high generators of new traffic to the area. For example, marijuana dispensaries, banks, sit-down restaurants, post offices, libraries, daycare centers, medical offices, and clinics. These are all uses that generate a pretty high amount of traffic that is new coming into the area. The uses that are being proposed within the HB zone that would be new to the area, like the coffee shops and convenience stores, those types of uses, generate a high volume of pass-by traffic. To the point where if you look at the Institute of Transportation Engineers and how we actually estimate how much traffic something is going to generate, the largest relationship that is that can predict how much traffic a Dunkin' Donuts or something like that will generate is actually the traffic that's passing by on the adjacent street. It's not dependent on the size of the facility because it does rely so much on adjacent street traffic. So there's not actually going to be a very high increase in new trips to this area. It will be a lot of new turning movements in and out of the facilities there, but it will all be traffic that's already coming through this area. So a great way to see that is from this map here, where you can see that there is a large, thanks, Chris, there's a large amount of residential uses in this area, as well as along Route 112 and Route 5 to the west of the highway, that currently are all using Industrial Park Road as their main access onto the highway. Now, as a former resident of Garfield Street, I regularly had to drive down Route 112 and over to Route 1 to get gas, get coffee in the morning, and hop back onto the highway, which is what a lot of the people in that area are doing now. As this being a major commuter route onto the highway, it's calling for services for those commuters and for the residents who live in this area. So there's a very valuable use to changing this to an HB zone to provide those services and actually eliminate some of that traffic that's happening now along Route 12 for people who are headed down to Route 1 for those services, driving all the way back up Route 1 and back out onto the highway. That will eliminate some of that traffic that's occurring now. One of the things that we did also do was an analysis using the 2040 build conditions from the Mass Turnpike, or excuse me, the Main Turnpike project, and looking at how much traffic would be generated by a Dunkin' Donuts and adding that on top of it to see what would the actual impacts to the surrounding area intersections be. And what we found was that at the signals at either end, there was less than a 4-second increase in delay on any movement through there because so much of the traffic that would be coming through is pass-by traffic to the area. And I see my light is flashing, so I will wrap up there. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to be recognized? Okay, not seeing any. Councillor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. I move to close the public hearing and schedule the second and final reading for March 4th, 2024.
Motion has been made by Councillor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor Hewitt. Roll call vote. Councillor Archer?
Aye.
Councillor Parks?
Yes.
Councillor Gunn?
Yes.
Councillor Berman?
Yes.
Councillor Hatch?
Yes.
Councillor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councillor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion to close the public hearing passes 7-0. Okay, that now takes us to item E, and that is one reading of the rules and order of business, and that is assigned to Councillor Archer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Pursuant to Article 2, Section 2.08 Bravo of the City Charter, the council is required to develop its own rules and orders of business at the first meeting of a newly elected council each year. Changes were proposed and shared with council at the January 22nd, 2024 workshop. The City Council hereby approves the recommended changes made to the rules and order of business as identified in Exhibit 1.
Motion has been made by Councillor Archer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councillor Hatch. Any discussion or comments? Councillor Berman?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So first, I really appreciate this effort. I think separating the rules and order of business from council procedure and background for good governance is absolutely appropriate. I think these rules are clear. I think they'll simplify the way in which you do business. So I absolutely appreciate the effort, and I think this is a great step forward. I do have two small things I want to bring to council's attention. One is Rule 5, called Confidentiality and Scheduling. I believe it would be more appropriately titled Confidentiality and Scheduling of Executive Session, because I believe that the rule applies entirely to executive session. I think that would clarify what that rule is about. So,
repeat that, please?
Yeah, I believe Rule 5 should be titled Confidentiality Scheduling of Executive Sessions. And I think that's just a clarification, and I hope comes across as a friendly amendment. The next piece maybe is not for action tonight because it's a little bit bigger, but I did want to raise it to council's attention, and this has to do with our new parliamentary procedure, and I'm just trying to find it here. But the new rules make clear reference to the fact that we will be following Robert's Rules of Order, which I greatly appreciate. A piece that I think may be missing is what happens in a case of a disagreement or conflict about the proper interpretation of Robert's Rules of Order. In the case where somebody is raising an issue of privilege, raising an issue of reconsideration, if there's a question of tabling or timing of tabling, if there's a question of precedence of motions, I believe there should be some contingency for a parliamentarian or who will settle that issue. My personal recommendation is that the mayor should be the ultimate parliamentarian, perhaps on the advice of the city administrator, but that's a point of discussion.
So just to build off that, sorry. Usually do
Councilor
not.
Johnston was first,
Yep,
yeah.
okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, likewise, I do appreciate making this a concise document and not the way it was previously. I do have a couple things I would like council to consider, which I believe the first one actually addresses what Councilor Berman was discussing. But before I get to that, I just want to speak on the minutes as was spoken about previously by the public. I think many of you, well, I guess at this point, the only one that's been here long enough is Councilor Archer, but for many years since we moved to these action-based minutes, I'm not a strong or advocate for them at all. I understand why they were done. I certainly prefer the way it used to be or it was done, though I recognize that 85 pages of minutes probably isn't the best use of anybody's time, but I would advocate for what Ms. Brown had suggested with minutes in general, not just for the public comment, but also councilor comments. And years ago, I had suggested creating a minutes policy. Council never took that up, but I would still advocate for that. As far as what's before us, we have Rule 8, which is motions during debate. It says when a question is under debate, only the following motions shall be received: adjournment, take a recess, raise a question of personal privilege, lay on the table, and postpone indefinitely. I would suggest, really, I would like to amend that we add the following motions, such as a motion to amend, move the question, move to postpone, motion to reconsider, point of order, suspend the rules, and appeal from the chair's decision. So therein lies going back to Councilor Berman's comments, I would agree if you're following Robert's rules, which is, I think, our intent, it is the chairperson, in this case the mayor, that has the purview of order. And if there is a councilor that doesn't agree with that particular decision, they can appeal to the full body, again, in disagreement with the chair. But that's part of Robert's rules. And just the way this is laid out with Rule 8, if you go down through other rules, you'll see some of these motions in rules, but by having Rule 8 say that you can only state, the 4 or 5 motions that are there, I'm just concerned that we may run into a situation where someone says, well, our council rules says you can't make those motions. And I think more often than not, we'd like to be able to make a motion to amend, but it wouldn't be the first time I've seen, political gamemanship used to say, hey, Robert, or our council rule says otherwise. So I would move to amend by, again, adding the suggested motions that I had stated. If you want me to read them again, I can do that, Madam Mayor.
Do you want to do these as amendments, or are these just changes to the document that we can?
What I'll do is, if there's no objection from the council, I'll take Councilor Berman's, I'll take Councilor Johnson's suggestions, and if there's no concern, then I'll bring it back. We have a meeting on March 4th, so I will just, we can postpone this till March 4th for final, for a reading, rather than going ahead. We don't really have to go ahead tonight, so let's make sure we get it right, okay? So I will appreciate if Councilor Johnson just repeats what he just said relative to the motions that you want to include.
Yeah, I can do that. I also can send it to you, so.
Oh, you can send it to me. That's
Okay. That's probably easier.
And we're probably looking at this anyway. So, so that would be my recommendation, Your Honor. So that way, we bring it back next Monday, everybody's comfortable. I mean, the thing is, these are your rules. I think at any time, you can take them up with proper notice, and so that's no problem. The one thing I wanted to mention, if it's okay, there will be a second document that I'm going to start working on, and that will be something dealing with policy manual for the city council. So I'm going to try to bring that together. It'll take a little bit longer because I want to try to, synthesize a lot of it down to what you really need to look at. And one of them, there's multiple things. So, and there'll be, maybe there will be citations to the charter, citations to the code of ordinances, those types of things. So it may take a little bit longer, but I think it's important, maybe after next week, we get these rules in place. And then, like I said, if at some point the council wants to add, subtract, or amend these rules, they certainly can work through the mayor, and as long as you give it like a notice on the agenda.
Okay.
Councilor Johnson, yep.
Thank you. So the other matter that I would like to address, and again, we can clean it up however you would like going forward. Bring it back. I don't have to make the motion. Rule 10, we have motion for reconsideration.
Yep.
I would like to strike, and I will give reasons as to why, where it says, so I'll read it. A motion for reconsiderations of a vote shall be open to debate, but such motion shall not be considered unless made by a member voting with the majority, nor unless such motion is made at the meeting at which such vote is passed, or at the very next meeting. I would like to strike "or" at the very next meeting. And again, the reasons for this are really important to me because I've sat here for 10 years and have had this particular, well, for starters, if we are going to follow Robert's rules is clear on a reconsideration vote. It occurs in the same meeting. It's not at a later date. It's at that same meeting. So, for example, if we're voting on, I don't know, whether we're going to buy Poland Spring water, and I vote yes, and then later on, 3 or 4 items later, I say, oh, I really meant to vote no, that's the purpose. I can reconsider it in that same meeting. Right. Now, where there has been an issue, and I could give several examples, but where this has been an issue is when, a counselor has, voted one way, leaves the chambers, 2 weeks later, I guess because the public or whoever spoke to them, they go and change their mind and then, go through the legalese process we have here where we go to the city attorney and he concocts some backwards opinion in contrast to what Robert's Rules is. So, and as I've stated on several occasions, we have other processes for when you want to change a vote. And using a reconsideration has led to a very recent issue where we had a TIF issue that we were trying to designate those funds from, and the vote ended in a negative way towards doing that. And it actually has cost the taxpayers money. And because of the way it was considered a reconsideration, it couldn't be brought back. So the whole point of a rescinding of a vote allows for any member that's present when the first vote was taken to just rescind the vote altogether, and you start anew. So I just think to clear this up and make sure that we're following Robert's Rules, we don't do at the very next meeting. Also, if it's in the affirmative, if a vote's in the positive, and you, or forgive me, if it's in the negative, say it was, again, we're buying cars, it doesn't pass. Nothing prevents the city administrator or the mayor or the city councilor from bringing that exact same subject up the following week. Now, you have to assume that there's votes there to actually pass it this time. But going through this, again, this confusing process of, oh, I want to reconsider it because we didn't get the outcome we wanted, I think you just need to remove it altogether. So, I mean, that's just my feeling on it. That's my understanding of Robert's rules. And for the, yeah, I mean, to see it in writing here, again, it's in conflict with Robert's rules when you say, or at the very next meeting. So that's just my personal feeling on it. I'm happy to hear what council thinks, but.
Anything else? Is that it? Councilor Archer, then Councilor Gunn.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. We kind of went a little off skew because we're making amendments and then we went to kind of a workshop setting, so I kind of got confused there for a second. So I'm going to have to address, I guess, Councilor Berman's first thing is when we're talking about parliamentary authority, since we're not kind of doing amendments, but you're taking suggestions, I guess, at this time, is that the chair has parliamentary authority, however, should never be the parliamentarian for when there is separation of that. It's the checks and balances is what it is. And with that said, it should also never be the deputy mayor, because that deputy mayor could be put into that position. So I too believe that with this, we should have a parliamentarian who isn't the mayor or deputy mayor, a councilor that is elected, kind of how we look at different things. Like I said, on the floor, for the most part, the chair has parliamentary. But what happens when you have a disagreement? The body disagrees with the chair. It needs to go to someone who's not controlling that meeting. So that's what's kind of my thoughts. I'm glad you brought it up. But once you said it, my brain was going, it can't be the same person. The immediate decision is cool. Like, that's fine. The chair has that, but not the parliamentarian who will make the final decision when there is discrepancy. It should be no one that's part of that, like the chair of that board.
I think City Administrator Mahanka.
Sure. There are bodies, and I've been part of one, that the council votes for a parliamentarian within its body. So let's say, for example, I would hope that somebody would want to volunteer for it, and then the council would vote for it, or if there's a discussion about two people, then the council would vote for it. But I think you can have a parliamentarian, and if you want, I mean, you don't have to do that today. I mean, I can do some research on it to see, what others do. I know that I've been on that a city council does have a parliamentarian. It has to be somebody that's willing to, spend a little time to make sure they have Robert's Rules of Order, and certainly we'd get them a copy of the most recent. But that's something you can do if you want, and that way, if there is a ultimate concern with the parliamentarian's ruling, which probably shouldn't happen, but sometimes may, the council has every right to table the item and then seek legal advice. So that's the way you could leave it. I'll do some research on parliamentarian and see what you could add a rule 38. The parliamentarian shall be voted on by, shall be part of the body or whatever, and shall be voted on by the city council.
Councilor Archer, anything additional?
Yes, then I just want to talk on Rule 10, the motion for reconsideration. I'm in a strict agreement with that it has to be done in that same meeting. There's different ways to handle it. So the intent of why it has to be done in the same meeting, and I think Councilor Johnson, is so that you cannot be persuaded after the vote. That simple, no story. It's so that you cannot be persuaded. You're supposed to make a decision based on the information presented to you at the time of the vote. Now, there's ways to handle that is you can table. Oh, I need more information, let's table it. So it should never be or at the next meeting, because it presents the issue that someone could persuade you after the fact just to change your vote. So that's the reason why I'm a big supporter of that, and the reason why it's that you shouldn't be persuaded after your vote. If you're done in the same meeting, it's kind of, we know that no one else has come and given you more information that no one else had access to. So, and the other thing is the same meeting can be the same, you can go into recess for 48 hours. That's still the same meeting. So we've had to do that with a budget before. Years ago, I think we were here to like 2 a.m. and we went into recess for 48 hours. That's still technically the same meeting. So
Yeah, I would just.
that's all I have.
I would just add that by Robert's rules, as long as the motion to reconsider took place at that meeting, it can extend to a future meeting. So, again, for example, at the end of the meeting, we're already at 9:30 or thereabouts, and I say, oh, I'd like to reconsider that vote. It would be on to the mayor. We could vote to reconsider, but we don't have to immediately take up that item. It would go to the next meeting. So, thank you.
Councilor Gunn, or Councilor Archer, was that anything else? Councilor Gunn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a couple of points I wanted to, the first point in terms of the issue of the parliamentarian, I was going to say I'm looking forward to the city administrator's research on this. I think if we were going to have someone who was going to be an absolute fair arbiter, if we needed one, I would be comfortable with either the city administrator himself or perhaps the city clerk. I think that takes away any possible debate amongst the council in terms of a preference when it comes to debate, though. So therefore, no one can accuse anyone of factionalism or anything like that when we have you, who are as independent as it gets, though. And as I said, if you didn't want to do it, Michelle Hughes always can do it. So that would be my hot take on if we have a parliamentarian. I would be comfortable with the city administrator in that position. For the motion to reconsider, I guess this is again, if we're workshopping this for lack of a better term, in terms of the procedure itself, because right now with the so-called modified, it allows it to happen just off the cuff at the beginning of the next meeting, which is what happened during the TIF debate. If we are in a meeting and we get to the end of the action item in particular, and we have a vote on it, and we have more action items, do we wait until, this is more of a procedural question, would we wait until the end of all previously scheduled action items, new business, et cetera, until someone from the prevailing side has the ability to basically call a reconsideration, or can they literally do it at any time? I think we have to codify that just to keep things on organized, though, because obviously if you realize you want to reconsider and you have the thought and you have the debate ready, again, if it's in the same meeting, you want the person to really act on it, though. So how would we approach that?
If I may, the one time that we did have to, and it came back a couple of years ago, the city solicitor's opinion on that was you just bring it up as soon, and then it falls into the agenda play. So once you decide that you want to reconsider, you would raise your hand, wait to be addressed, and then you could put that in.
I think it would be prudent to have that as part of the language for the reconsideration, just to keep everybody clear on it, because obviously, you get going, these things don't happen every day, but just to have a quick frame of reference, sort of like having all the motions, potential motions, spelled out the way Councilor Johnson had mentioned, because if you don't have Robert's rules in front of you, though, sometimes you forget what abilities you actually have as a councilor in the middle of a debate, and have them all spelled out as options acts as a good shorthand. So I think that would be a prudent way of going about that.
Again, it's
Councilor
spelled.
Johnson?
Sorry, it's spelled out in Robert's rules as far as the order of whatever that motion is. So if we're within the same subject, and let's say it was a motion that had an amendment, right? So we had the main motion, had an amendment. I voted in favor of the amendment. Now we're moving forward with that main motion, and then I say to myself, oh, wait, that's not how I meant to vote. I can just blurt out, or once I get, the authority from the chair to reconsider said vote. But if you're into a new topic, and again, I don't have Robert's rules in front of me, but I'm pretty certain that you have to wait until all other business is, taken up, not, 2 topics later, all of a sudden I just go, motion to reconsider. It has to be at the end.
Well, I think, am I okay, Madam Mayor?
Yes,
Okay, I didn't want to interrupt you. I think Councilor Johnson, and I are in agreement because, motions during debate, by listing all the ones that you want to list, which I perfectly agree with, it's a shorthand for not having Robert's rules in front of you, which is what you want. You want to make it easy for people to know these things, and having a shorthand for what Robert's rule says about when you can have a motion to reconsider. So we're talking the same language here, though. If we're going to just do a shorthand for each one, there's no debate here. It's just again, so we can glance at something and know that what we're doing is right, though, as opposed to having to, if it just says see Robert's rules without any context, though, I mean, that's kind of what we've been flying it with for years, which is why I think we're all head up to here with so-called modified rules when we don't even know what the modified rules are. So we agree. So there's really no point in, going, having a whole bunch of motions laid out, but then not have anything for motion to reconsider when both are the exact same, what we're going for the same thing.
So basically, what you're asking is, again, to remove, or at the very next meeting, so that, and then including when the timing of bringing the consideration up?
I would just strike that language and
Okay.
fall back on Robert's rules, which we already are, and whatever rule it is that adopts that, because it's
Okay.
pretty clearly spelled out in Robert's rules, how a reconsideration occurs.
I'm just going to say,
Counselor Archer?
but that motion is an interruptible motion, so you can, at any given time. I just brought
Is it?
I had an old cheat sheet that University of North Carolina, and I had to go back and find it. But it's like a one-page cheat sheet with everything. We've all seen different ones, but I was like, I could have swore it was an interruptible.
It has to have a second, though.
Yes,
Right.
yes, but it's interruptible. You just say.
Right, I get that.
Yeah.
I think past practice would obviously let the flow of work unfold and then come back to an item. But that
Councilor
would be up to
Berman?
the chair.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I feel ridiculous saying this, but with the announcement that council is getting new iPads, perhaps it'd be prudent to load an e-book of Robert's Rules of Orders on those new iPads so that all councilors might be furnished with the rules we'll now be following.
That's a great idea. And then everybody's going to be parliamentarian.
Okay, any other,
Along with Disney Plus, my daughter would love it. No.
any other comments, questions, suggestions?
Well, it's not a suggestion, I just wanted to highlight
Yep.
that I appreciate the fact that under Rule 19, there's, again, one of the items that for years had always been a hot topic as far as how counselors get items on the agenda. I appreciate this very precise cleaning up that spells it out and also attaches a 60-day window, which, because again, in the past, we may have had a counselor that wanted to take something up and it would, die in purgatory. So I just, thank you, is what I'm saying.
So, Your Honor, I think if there's a motion to postpone till the March 4th meeting, then I'll go and get this all squared away.
The March 4th?
What is it, March? What are we
4th,
doing?
and then the 11th is workshop.
Yeah, so next Monday is March 4th.
March 4th, yeah.
I think I should be able to have that done by then.
I would move to postpone this item until March 4th. Is that correct?
I will second that.
Motion has been made to table by Counselor Johnston, second by Counselor Gunn. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion to reconsider, I withdraw.
Yep. Good one.
Touche.
Okay, that completes the action items for tonight. Item number 10 is administrative update. City Administrator Bahenko?
Okay, now that I get all my papers messed up, I'm really in good shape here. Excuse me, I got it. First thing you've seen the written response as the administrative report, and this is as to inquiries that were made at the last council meeting, the first one being a hybrid meeting capacity. One of the things I think the city council has to do is They have some work to do on its policy to make sure it complies with state statutes. I'll just wait for direction from the mayor and council on how you want me to proceed with that. The other one is cable franchise negotiations. Since the governor and new legislation happened, we delayed it a little bit. We have one final review with our consultant, and we hope to bring it back and have that all squared away. We'll probably, we'll wait for our feedback from the consultant. And then just have some future agenda items, so you can look at those. And also, I want to bring to your attention that briefs are due on Friday for the Lincoln Street lawsuit. I don't, they could ask for an extension, but I just want to make sure the council was aware that those briefs were due. So if there is an extension, I'll let you know, because once they're filed, I believe they might become public information. So I wanted to let the council know that. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments for City Administrator Bango? Councilor Johnston and Councilor Hatch?
I would just advocate for as soon as possible when it comes to the hybrid meeting thing.
Yeah, I'll work with the mayor to determine, because I think what we'll have to do is have a workshop on the policy, make sure everybody's comfortable with it, and we comply with state law.
Okay.
Councilor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. That was my comment as well, so if we could get that moving forward, that'd be great.
Okay, next item is item number 11. That is council discussion and comment. Any discussion or comment from council? Okay, not seeing any. That moves on to item 12, which is an executive session. Is there a motion to move into executive session? Councilor Hatch?
Thank you, Mayor McPhail. Be it ordered that the City Council enter into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, Subchapter 1, Section 4056, C, Real Estate, -12 School Street.
Motion has been made. Is there a second? Roll call vote. Councilor Ratcher?
Aye.
Councilor Parks?
Yes.
Councilor Gunn?
Yes.
Councilor Berman?
Yes.
Councilor Hatch?
Yes.
Councilor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Councilor Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to move into executive session at 8:01. We will be in your office or in the city administrator's office. Okay, welcome back. Is there a motion to exit executive session?
So moved.
Motion made by Counselor Hatch. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Berman. Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion to exit executive session at 8:29 passes 7-0. Is there a report from executive session?
No report.
Okay, and item 14, that takes us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Counselor Hatch, second by Counselor Johnston. Roll call vote. Counselor Archer?
Aye.
Counselor Parks?
Yes.
Counselor Gunn?
Yes.
Counselor Berman?
Yes.
Counselor Hatch?
Yes.
Counselor Hewitt?
Yes.
And Counselor Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 at 8:30. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.